it was.
Hey guys, I'm back with Otterpad. He's from Romania and it's right on the border of Ukraine. And he's really been filling me in on some things that's going on I didn't really understand. And that's why I'm reaching out to people that are smarter than me and that have lived through this and that have been from there. So let's talk about what's really going on. What's the deal with Russia and Ukraine? Not what we're getting on the media, the mainstream media. What is, I know you can't say everything, but say what you can about what's going on.
Sure. So what I want the audience to understand is that we want to emotionally detach from what's happening so we can have a clearer view. Because when we're seeing a lot of people suffering, especially in Ukraine, and how their homes being destroyed, it's very easy to fall into an emotional state and not understand. However, what you want to do in these cases, you want to understand all of the sides involved. Why is an action of the enemy this? Why is the current government of X country is this? So we have to put that together, and then we have a clearer picture. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not picking sides here at all. And, my heart goes out to the people of Ukraine. They are suffering the most, but it was almost baked into the cake that they have to suffer. Unfortunately, they are being victimized, but I believe on both ends, right? It was sort of a situation where this needs to happen in order for the next step to make sense, because you and I don't want to go to war. You and I don't want violence, right? But they need to convince us, the peace-loving people, to kind of justify that may happen in the future. So in order to understand the current situation of Ukraine, you have to kind of learn the history of NATO. And I'm not going to go into that, but the next step would be to understand the current military technology, right? With hypersonic missiles, multiple nuclear heads, and so on and so forth. Eventually, you get to the point where the only defense system is actually distance. That's the only thing. Early warning systems and distance. So hopefully you can shoot out missiles mid-air far enough that you have the better chance of missiles not hitting your country. That's the only thing. So now we take a look at, in order to understand the current situation, we have to look at the Cuban Missile Crisis. As good as the president is of a country, right? If you look at Kennedy's, or you might like them or you might not like them. A lot of Eastern Europeans did, just to tell you. So as good as you are, you have no options. You cannot let missiles too close to your country, because that way you are being vassalized, if that's a word. You are actually being forced to be a vassal state of another country because they have that dagger next to your neck. Now, that situation, once that's understood, then we take a look at the NATO summit of Bucharest of 2008, I believe. So right there, NATO said that both Ukraine and Georgia will be welcomed in open arms, welcomed into NATO. Now, these countries are very close to Moscow. So at that point, what happened? Well, Russia invaded Georgia. If you take a look at that, right near after 2008. Why? They wanted to demilitarize Russia, demilitarized Georgia. Now, Georgia is a small country. Nobody wanted, unfortunately, and I met Georgians during those times. It was horrible for them. And I were talking with young Georgians in Romania during that time. Anyway, right now, after the Maidan of Ukraine, there has been a push to militarize Ukraine, to kind of set it up as, and this is just opinion, I'm not a military or political expert in any way, and you take your sources, but if you're open for my opinion, then listen to this. So they wanted a fall guy that they can later on use an excuse for a bigger event, right? And militarizing and providing a lot of weaponry to Ukraine forced the Russia's hand in order to act. Now, while the Russians had the puppet president prior Maidan, this was not a threat to Russia, right? After that event, there were still a lot of Eastern European countries that were in NATO that had veto power. So they could say, no, we will not take Ukraine. No, we will not take Ukraine. The reason for that was that these Eastern European countries had, they were dependent on Russian energy. And people were more sane back then. Now, as some of these Eastern European countries are changing government or could be changing government, like the current government of Hungary, which was vetoing Ukraine's entry into NATO, there's an election coming up in Hungary. There's an election coming up somewhere else. These could also fall to Western influence, where they will no longer veto Ukraine. If Ukraine becomes a NATO country, then any type of missiles could become put on the Russian-Ukrainian border right there. That would become a Cuban missile crisis for Moscow, where there's absolutely no stepping back from. So there would be no more negotiations from that point, because the blade would be right at the neck of Russia. Now, this is, again, not to say that I like or I don't like the current Russian government. There are despots everywhere around the world, everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So the rights of the people are being trampled every single day, unfortunately, and there's something should be done about it, right? But I want you to understand what's happening. And unless we have a frank talk about this, then you'll fall for anything, basically. So in order to avert this missile crisis that could happen, where there's no coming back from, Russia needed to negotiate a deal that would be demilitarize Ukraine and no Ukraine, assuring that Ukraine would not be stepping into NATO. This negotiation was falling into pieces ever since the 2014, I believe, and now it fell apart. So what will happen from here, we don't exactly know, but it's not looking good, because a lot of Eastern European countries or mid European countries like Germany are now even supplying arms to Ukraine. And unfortunately, whatever would have happened, whether this side wins or that side wins, Ukraine will get wrecked. The only thing that we could have done in order to not wreck Ukraine and leave those people alone, they have suffered enough, would have been to have normal talks and treat Russia on the same level, where we understand their problem and they understand our problem, right? The West's problem. But it looks like those negotiations fell apart, and here we are now.
So it's a distance issue for Russia. Ukraine people are stuck in the middle.
Yeah, unfortunately, they will suffer, and it is absolutely not their fault. Maybe and they could have pressed more for a different government but after they didn't, the average.
Well, a lot of people forget how corrupt Ukraine was or is. I'm not trying to say it's good what's happening to them. And the people there have nothing to do with the corruption, just like the people in the US don't have anything to do with the corruption that's going on here. And that's the only people that's going to make it out. I'm telling you, the war that's going on in Ukraine and Russia is going to be a scapegoat for inflation, oil prices. They're going to use this to their benefit in every way possible. Don't let any crisis go to waste. They are going to wring this baby out.
This crisis could have been averted very easily if the powers that be didn't want war on both sides. This was wanted. We will know eventually. In 7 years, we will know why this was wanted by someone up there. But this could have been averted easily, and Ukraine could have been built up economically. But unfortunately, it was no one's best interest other than Ukraine's best interest to build up Ukraine economically and leave it out of this this war.
Yeah.
Which has been going on. So now it's a hot war, but I'm saying war is not always a hot war, and war has been going on for a very long time now. And now sort of the first chess pieces started moving in the grand chessboard is Kaczynski.
Yeah.
Kaczynski.
Yeah, and I think the bishop and the rook are piled up on China's side over there against Taiwan.
Well,
That's
we
going to
know
be
for Putin has went to China, I believe, just before this started. Now I have to look up the dates, and even I believe not Afghanistan, but Kazakhstan, I believe. Yeah, well, there were the Kazakhstan issue just prior to this. So they needed to clean house. Russia needed to clean house on the rest of the borders, the other side of its country before they would commit to this. So whatever happens now, we know that China will not step in against Russia. That's for sure.
Well, these are the first steps into the Thunderdome, and what worries me more than anything is going into this with the administration. Don't forget, Biden doesn't know where he's at. He is being manipulated by the other side. I mean, the other side of the world, China. He sold us out a long time ago. This is all part of the plan. We're getting ready for the Great Reset. Just brace for impact. If you're not holding precious metals, not financial advice, but you need to just kind of realize, I was looking today, I don't want to keep this too long, but I want to mention in Ukraine, the things I take away were people were scrambling for water. People didn't have fuel to get out of town because they didn't expect to sit in traffic for some reason. I mean, this is, hindsight. If they would have left 8 hours earlier or a couple of days before, or, when they were promising to invade, they could have got out easily. But now it's a big, big problem because they waited to the last minute, just like people are waiting to the last minute to buy food, precious metals. They're going to wait. They're going to wait till it really gets bad. Well, when it gets bad, everything goes to the atmosphere. Everything goes way up, and then it's no fun to buy gold and silver when it's double and triple and quadruple the price, or food for that matter, or food might not even be there. And I'm not saying go buy out the whole store. I'm just saying get a little bit extra each time you go. And I say that in every video just about, because there's a lot of people around me that live for the moment. They couldn't care less for tomorrow. And those are the people that are going to hurt the worst. That's it. Guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for coming on our pod. We'll be doing this some more because you've got some great information. I will see you tomorrow.